Hi there, good noon everyone, and today we are bringing perhaps one of the most demanded sessions, and that is something on tone-based questions. So those of you who are preparing for CAT 23 or those of you who've just about started this preparation, if you're practicing passages, then you would notice that there are these different question types that you encounter. Remember, you have main idea questions, you have inference-based questions. These are the kind of questions that we get asked very frequently. And similarly, one of those questions happens to be tone-based questions. And this is a question type that bothers, that flummoxes, that confuses a lot of people. So this session will ensure that you are able to deal with this particular question variety very easily, very successfully. So shall we start? So normally whenever I start teaching, I basically share a framework that at the end of the day, you need to be aware of three things, right? So what are these three things? First up, you need to understand the question. So if we don't understand the question, we are obviously not in a position to get it right consistently. So we need to have that clarity. Now, once you understand the question, the next thing that I want you to figure out is the ability that is required to answer that question. And once you figure out these two things, the last bit is a strategy to acquire that ability. And then you combine it with some tricks, some particular peculiar ways of approaching that question, and you are all set. Then you can normally deal with it very, very easily, right? So I will ensure that by the end of this session, you know each one of these three things about tone-based questions, and I have a surprise for you towards the end. I'll tell you how I am going to help you get even better at this particular question. So in case you happen to have any question, any concern, use the comment window down below rather liberally, and I would love to go ahead and address your questions, your queries. So my name is Vikrant and I welcome you to BYJU'S exam prep channel dedicated to your success as an MBA aspirant, and we are meeting each other today so that we can go ahead and talk about tone-based questions in detail, in depth. So let me start with a question. What do you understand by the tone of the author? I mean, of course, the examiner does ask us about the tone, right? So what is your take? What is your understanding of this word? When you are asked about the tone, what is it that you are supposed to look for? So what's your take? Anyone? Let me see. I think I'm not able to read your chats. Just give me a second and I will ensure that I'm in a position to read it as well. Read it rather thoroughly as well. In the interim, keep your answers coming. So what do you understand by, sorry, my bad, tone in this question? Okay, the manner. So Pratyush says it is the manner in which the passage is written. Okay. Anything else? Anybody who would want to add something more to it? Okay, let us see. So before I directly tackle tone, before I directly give you the definition, let me take you into the world of communication. So you and I, we talk to others in our everyday life, right? So when we talk to others, how do we express ourselves? See, at the end of the day, we have some ideas in our mind and we want these ideas to reach others. So how do we ensure that those ideas reach others? What sort of tools, what sort of vehicle do we use to convey whatever we wanted to convey? So what's your take? So can I say that at the end of the day, the communication happens in 3 distinct ways? So we can use words to express ourselves, but then we also use body language and the voice. So if I were to broadly divide these 3 things, can I say that words represent what was said, whereas body language and voice represent how it was said? Just a throwback to Pratyush's comment earlier, the manner, right? Now, it's a combination of these 3 things that allows us to communicate. It is not just the words, it's not just the body language, it's a combination of these 3 things that basically makes us more effective. Pratyush also says words like must and should. Okay, maybe in some in some situations, yes, absolutely. But let us see. Is it possible for me to say something and yet communicate something which is entirely different merely because I change my body language and my voice? Let us go ahead and explore this a bit. Let us see. Okay. So let's look at just one simple singular expression. Now imagine I may look at somebody and say, my dear friend, or I may look at somebody and say, my dear friend. What is the difference between the two? You noticed, I am using exactly the same set of words, my dear friend. Yet, am I communicating, am I conveying the same thing? My dear friend versus my dear friend. Now, in the second case, am I even being friendly? No. So, you notice our body language and our voice can make a significant difference to what we actually want to convey, what we actually want to communicate. And that is why normally when we talk about communication, etc., we say that do focus on these aspects as well. And whenever there is an inconsistency between your words and these 2 things, people will tend to trust these and not your words. That's why it's important. So let's ignore body language for a brief while. When we say voice, our voice happens to have certain properties. So what are those properties? Let's check. Rate of speech. The number of words that you speak in a minute is typically called your rate of speech. Then your voice has this other property called volume. You can speak at a soft, low volume, or you can choose to speak at a rather loud volume. Hey, in some cases you can also choose to shout. Right? So, and then we have something called frequency or pitch. So you can speak with a lot of bass, lower frequency notes, or you can also choose to hit a lot of high frequency words. You can keep your pitch high, right? So that's the difference. So normally you would see a lot of people talk about voice modulation. So when they say modulate, what they're basically saying is that you should change these 3 things in your sound. So in case you are somebody who wants to become a more effective speaker, this is what voice modulation is all about. Change your rate of speech, change your volume, change your pitch. But then there is one more very, very, very important component of our volume, and that is, our voice, and that is called the tone. So what exactly is the tone? What do you understand by that? So let us see. Let's use a sentence and see if I change the tone, does that allow to convey a different message? Here you go. Okay. So I'll basically state the same sentence. How about, oh, I know where she is, versus I know where she is. I know where she is? So you notice these three ways? I know where she is. I know where she is. Yes. I know where she is. So you notice I'm changing the tone, and that changes something very important in this message. What is that change? So in one case, I know where she is, I'm cheerful, joyful, happy. But when I say I know where she is, this is sad. This indicates that something tragic may have happened, right? Or I know where she is. Now I'm quizzical. Now I wonder, am I supposed to know this, right? I'm a little perplexed. So what changes? The emotions. So whenever we communicate a message, we typically have some sort of emotion in our mind that we want to convey, and that emotional component of our message is known as the tone. So now to answer that question, what exactly do we mean by the tone of the author? Well, tone essentially is the writer's attitude. Tone essentially is the emotional coloring. So emotions / attitude, at times in my classes I use this simple expression, and that is state of mind. Right? वो जॉब एस्पिरेंट सीकर 1 साल से सीडीएस वो यार वो सीडीएस की जगह अभी एमबीए पढ़ा रहे हैं हम. हाँ तो अभी इधर मिलते हैं. So now you know what the tone really is, and to be very honest, you are excellent at choosing tones. You have this superpower of picking up the tone in a fraction of a second. All that you need is someone talking to you. All that you need is someone's sound. That is it. That's all that it takes. Has it ever happened to you that you called up a friend of yours, your friend picks up the phone, says just one line, you hear that and you say, "Wait, ऐसे कैसे बात कर रहा है? पापा है आसपास, बाद में फोन करूं? Why are you talking like this? Is your dad around? Should I call you later?" How are you able to figure out just from that one sentence that the other person's dad is around? How do you figure that out really? You do have that superpower, right? So that is what I am really talking about. So you know how to recognize tones, and therefore I believe that it should be an easy question type for you. But hang on, you may have a question, you may have a concern at this juncture, and your concern could be, "Yaar Vikrant, do I get sound in the exam? You just said that you have this superpower, you just hear and you're able to figure it out." But then the problem here is that RC passages just give me written words. There is no sound available. So in that scenario, how do I go on and figure out the tones? So let me tell you how you figure out the tone even in that scenario. So the key is, tone reflects your state of mind, your emotion, your attitude. Now the deal is, when your emotions change, when your attitude changes, it also affects your choice of words. You may also go on to choose a different set of words. Now imagine you are in a very happy mood one day, and then you take out your car to go to the movies, and suddenly somebody who's driving on the wrong side of the road comes in front. So you had to brake rather aggressively, but fortunately you could avoid the collision. But you'd probably say, you'd utter something to that other person, but you're in a great state of mind, right? You're in a good mood. So you may roll down your window, state something, and then move on. Now compare it with another situation where you are in a really negative state of mind. Say you fought with your loved one, and now you've taken out the car to go someplace, and now somebody comes in front of you driving on the wrong side of the road, and you had to engage in rather aggressive braking to save that person. So you notice in both of these situations, the facts of the matter are identical. Both of them are talking about a situation where you had to engage in a bit of aggressive braking to prevent that accident from happening. But the kind of things that you say the second time around are going to be significantly different from the kind of things that you say in the first instance. So even your word choice changes. So it all then boils down to looking at the word choice of the author and finding out that emotional state of mind. But it requires one additional piece of information, one additional piece of understanding. And what is that? Whenever you look at a word, you need to realize that a word actually happens to have two meanings. One of those meanings is known as a denotation, whereas the other one is called a connotation. So denotation is the dictionary definition of the word. If you open the dictionary, you see the definition, right? So that's denotation. Connotation, on the other hand, talks about the kind of emotions that the word goes on to evoke, that the word goes on to generate, right? For example, let's have a look at this word called skinny, right? Now, the meaning of the skinny is fairly straightforward. Somebody who is very thin. But then, so that's the denotation, that's the dictionary definition. But look at a couple of extra things on this page. You see this part? Mainly disapproving. So this tells you that skinny is a negative word. Look at the example. You should eat more. You are too skinny. So this tells you very clearly that you're supposed to use the word skinny for somebody who is thin in a way that the person becomes unattractive or looks rather weak or emaciated. है ना, बहुत कमजोर अमजोर लग रहा हो और ऐसा, तो वहां पे हमें skinny use करना है. But then, so basically whenever you look at a word can have a negative connotation. A word can have a neutral connotation. A word can have a positive connotation. So there are times when you have different words that happen to have the same meaning, but they differ from each other in terms of their emotions evoked, in terms of their connotation. Here are some examples for you. So we know skinny is a negative word, but then when you call somebody thin, that's neutral. It does not tell us whether we are positive or negative. However, when we look at somebody and say slender, you know, she is very slender, then it shows that our emotions are positive. Same here. Bizarre, unusual, extraordinary. All the three happen to have the same meaning. They differ in terms of connotation. Domineering, forceful, assertive. Same meaning, but the difference is more in terms of connotation. So for instance, have a look at these two sentences. These are in a way same words, right? Same meanings, but in the first sentence we are criticizing Sam. In the second one we are praising Sam. Now we are positive towards Sam. Or have a look at this. We can look at a man and say he is inebriated, or we can also say he is drunk. But you notice that change of attitude. When we call somebody a drunk, we have that condescending attitude. We are looking down upon that person. Kaisa aadmi yaar? Piyakkad. On the other hand, when we say inebriated, we are being formal. We are being restrained. We are moving or inching closer to being neutral. It is a different kind of attitude for us. So that is what I want you to really know and focus on. Okay, so quickly, let's just go ahead and have a quiz. Can you tell me the difference between childlike and childish? Let's see who gets that first. The difference between childlike and childish. Come on, share that with me very quickly. जॉब एस्पिरेंट सीकर, यार नाम भी बता दे यार अपना, मुझे पता होना चाहिए. कोई प्लेलिस्ट है ग्रामर आरसी की यार, तुम चैनल पे देखोगे तो बहुत सारे सेशंस मिलेंगे. आई एम श्योर उनमें कुछ फायदा होगा. एंड थैंक यू मैन, थैंक्स अ लॉट. अच्छा, वो फिलर्स वाले तुम्हें अभी तक याद है यार? 1.25 साल 1.5 साल पहले पढ़ाया था मैंने CDS. हाँ, चाइल्ड-लाइक वर्सेस चाइल्डिश, व्हाट इज द डिफरेंस गाइस? Come on. So, childlike is positive, childish is negative. Both of them happen to have the same dictionary definition. So, when we like, so बच्चे के जैसा behavior, behaving like a child. But when we like that behavior, we use the term childlike. So, childlike curiosity, childlike laughter. On the other hand, when we want to say that you are a grown-up and you are still acting like a child, are you a fool? Then we use the term childish, right? Here is the next one, frugal versus miserly. Difference? So both the words talk about somebody who does not spend money. Now when we like that behavior, we call that person frugal. On the other hand, when we dislike that behavior, we are going to label that person miserly, stingy, kanjoos, makki choos, right? So that's positive. This is negative. Here is one more example for you. House and home. So you realize house is just a building, right? It's a neutral word. But home is where the heart is. Houses are built. Homes are made by the people who live there. Home reflects that feeling of belongingness. Home reflects that warmth. So this is a positive word. मकान तो सब बना लेते हैं, घर बनाना पड़ता है. And then cheap versus inexpensive. So you notice, cheap can at times carry this negative connotation, whereas inexpensive is always positive. So these are the kind of things that you need to be aware of about the words. So here is just one more sentence for you. So here is a blank. There are these three words here. I want you to arrange these three words. Each one of these three words can be used in this sentence. I want you to arrange these three words in a series, in a sequence of negative to positive. So please arrange these three words in a series of negative to positive and let us see who gets it first. अतुल, ये होम को नहीं, बर्थ प्लेस नहीं यार, वो तो होम टाउन होता है ना अपना. होम टाउन भी बर्थ प्लेस नहीं होता एक्चुअली, राइट? सो पैदा कहाँ हुए उससे नहीं यार, होम में वो इमोशन है. सो इन तीनों को अरेंज करना है आपको नेगेटिव टू पॉजिटिव के सीक्वेंस में. So how do you do that? So home is more like, जैसे यार, BYJU'S exam prep is your home for your CAT preparation, right? You get a lot of support, a lot of warmth, a lot of inputs from all of us here. And if you are a subscriber to this channel, you know that you are a family to us. And in case you are somebody who's new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. नहीं तो मिस हो जाएंगे यार सेशंस. बहुत अच्छे अच्छे सेशंस मेहनत कर करके लेके आते हैं हम लोग तुम्हारे लिए. And in case you think that you are enjoying this session and this understanding of denotation and connotation is now going to make you better at answering the question, show that by pressing the like button. Okay, a like from you is going to be tantalizingly pleasing for me. Okay, so we have this answer from Naina, Harshad, Pratyush and Atul. So let us see. And you guys have actually managed to get this right. Notorious and then well-known and then famous. So you notice, notorious is negative, well-known is neutral. We do not know whether the person is well-known for something that is good or something that is bad. And then of course you have famous, which is positive. So notorious, which tells you that the person is known for something bad. Famous, known for something good. Whereas well-known is well-known, but you do not know whether he is known for something which is positive or something which is negative. Right? So now now that we know about this, let's look at the approach. So all that you do is read the passage carefully, and while reading the passage, focus on the word choice, the kind of words that the author has chosen. And in particular, I want you to focus on the verbs that the author has used or the modifiers. So modifiers basically mean the adjectives or the adverbs that the author has gone on to use. So every word can carry emotion, but then verbs and modifiers usually are a stronger indicator of the emotion involved. Let me give you an example. So let us say somebody brings in a cat preparation plan to you. Okay. So somebody carries a cat preparation plan. Now you can look at that plan and say, yeah, this is a questionable plan. You can also say that this is an impractical plan. Or you may say that this is the, okay, let's use this. It is an idiotic plan. So you notice 3 different adjectives. Now when you say questionable, you are mildly negative. You're saying that, okay, I don't think it is going to work. But if you want to use it, go ahead and try it. So questionable. If I capture it in terms of tone, I will say that you are skeptical. Right? But when you say impractical, you are very clearly negative. We say that you are disapproving. To give you one more word, you are being censorious. But the moment you use idiotic, तो अब तो बात गाली गलौच पे चली गई. Now we have started using cuss words. So you notice that the attitude has become very negative now. So we are likely to use a word like caustic or bitter for this particular word choice. We can get into that territory now. So look at the word choice, and that word choice will basically guide you towards the right emotion. And while looking at the words, of course, focus on the connotation, focus on the kind of intensity that the word portrays. Apart from that, you can also look at the imagery created. And let us not forget this 4th and the last thing. Never forget the big picture. That is why I always say that while solving RCR, the first thing that you do is read the passage and create an overview. If you do not do that, it can lead to a bit of a problem. Atul, de MBA is a good course, yaar, obviously. In fact, MBA na, अगर career clarity ज़्यादा नहीं है, तो MBA is a really good option. Right? So, dupe bhi ho sakta hai. You can use different sort of adjectives. Why not? So now what do I really mean by this? So let us see. एक छोटा सा एग्जाम्पल देता हूं, आप देखिएगा कैसे वर्ड चॉइस से डिफरेंस आता है. सो लुक एट दिस सेंटेंस. द किंग एंटर्ड द थ्रोन रूम अहेड ऑफ द प्रोसेशन. Now compare the first sentence with second, and now tell me, you notice a lot of modifiers here. Pompous, insolently, gaudy. Now all of these words are negative words. So whereas the first sentence happens to have a neutral tone, we'd say that the second sentence has now gone on to become negative. How about the third sentence? The elegant king entered the elegant throne room. Oh, I ended up repeating the words. Okay, I think I needed to be a little more awake. Ahead of the prestigious procession. So now you notice the words that we are using are positive. So here the tone becomes positive. So word choice. But why did I say that you need to focus on the big picture or the context? Here is a very mini exercise. So why don't you read this paragraph and tell me what kind of feeling do you detect here? What kind of words would you use to describe this tone? So go ahead, read this paragraph and tell me the tone of this paragraph. Let's see. Attitude, emotion, what do you detect? Ready with your answer? I hope that you've read it by now. The day is finally here. This is the day Prashant has been waiting for since January. This is going to be the day when the last 6 months of intense efforts and training are going to be tested. Prashant is part nervous and part excited. He reaches the venue of the competition. Pratyush, absolutely. We can use narration, but narration is style. Okay, if we focus on the tone, what sort of emotion are you getting? When you read this, do you see that there is an intensity involved here? It suggests that, somebody is focused, somebody is intense, somebody has spent 6 months preparing, 6 months of your life. दिख रहा है ना ऐसा सब कुछ? है ना? अभी excitement, yes, absolutely, Rahul. We can use excitement. So now let me add something to this paragraph. I'm just going to add 2-3 extra sentences and then you tell me whether the tone changes or not. Here you go. So I've just added the part in yellow here. And now tell me, does the tone change? When we add this bit, does the tone change? Go ahead and tell it. Go ahead and share it with me. Yes. So now can you still use intense? Can you still use excited? Can you still, Pratyush, can you still use extreme emotion? Look at which competition is being talked about. The king of eating idlis. Suddenly, from being that intense paragraph, it goes on and turns towards humor. When you read this part, you'd be like, यार पता नहीं क्या ही करने जा रहा है, कौन सा competition है, कौन सा event है. But then you read this and you realize college canteen में जाके इडली खानी है भाई. So that changes it significantly, right? So it is no longer that intense. It brings in, so this entire part in a way acts as a misdirection. It sets you up for thinking about a very positive, a competition which is serious. And then suddenly you see this and you're like, yaar, come on. Right? So you need to, as a result, have that big picture in mind before you can decide on the exact tone. Okay? So now that you know this, let us solve one question together. Whatever I've told you, you think you'd be able to solve the question on the basis of that now? So let us work together and solve a tone-based question. I am going to give you a passage with 3 paragraphs. Every slide will have 1 paragraph. The moment you're done reading that paragraph, just drop in a quick yes in the chat and I will know that I need to take you over to the next slide. Okay, so here is your first paragraph of the passage. So please read it. And once you are done, let me know. Just focus on the word choice. Try to capture the emotion so that when I take you to the question, you're able to answer it. That's it. अतुल, फिलहाल तो इसे पढ़ना है, उसके बाद टोन पूछूंगा मैं, ऑप्शंस दूंगा. Okay, Harshad, thank you for the input. Here is the next paragraph. I see that, Naina. Get ready. Come on, drop me a yes quickly so that I can take you over to the next slide. Fantastic, Innocent. So here is the last paragraph for you. Spotting powerhouse. Powerhouse is getting covered a bit by the bottom, but now that I've read it out, you know what the word is. Oh, low key solo. Solo और वो भी low key. What is that supposed to mean? Okay, so now that the passage is through, now that we've read the entire passage, and now that I've told you how to figure out the tones, the next slide has the question, will you be able to answer that question? Are you confident that you'd be able to get it right now? Now you know about word choice. You know that you just need to focus on the emotions being portrayed, the attitude being portrayed. Are you confident in your ability to choose the right answer choice? Actually, let me take you to the next slide. Let me take you to the question and then let us see. What's your answer? So what do you choose? So is it A, is it B, is it C, is it D? What is it that you would like to mark as your answer? Now, at the beginning of the session, I told you that, I'll give you everything and you'd be able to get the question right. But when you look at these answer choices, you realize that there is something else which acts as a problem here. हाँ, अब तुम में से कुछ लोग देख के बोलोगे यार ये क्या दोगलापन है यार, पहले बोला था कि सब कुछ पता चल जाएगा and you'd be able to answer it, अब ये क्या कर दिया? हाँ. So some of you may say that what hypocrisy is this? You said that we'd be able to get it right by the end of it. So I have given you the most important components of tackling this question, but that approach alone may not help you arrive at an answer. And that is because there is one very important segment left, and that is, I am very sure that you have captured the tone of the passage. But the question now is, do you know the meanings of all these 4 words? Do you know what kind of emotions or attitude these words stand for? Because if you do not, how will you answer it? So you also need to work on tone related vocabulary. And see, frankly speaking, we use around, what should I say? We actually use around 300 words to convey our emotions or attitude. Out of those 300 words, I am sure you already know around 150 to 200 words. So you only need to figure out the remaining 100 odd words. And where can you figure it out from? Very easy. Attend the session, no? I told you that I'm going to help you get this question right. So I will go the entire way. Pretty soon, I will bring in a session where I will take you through 50 high frequency tone related words that are used in the exam. So if somebody in the team is watching, in case you know the date, you can probably drop it in the chat and the students will know. But even otherwise, तुम लोगों ने subscribe कर रखा है ना यार, you're a subscriber, so whenever that session happens, you'll know in that session I'll take you through 50 high frequency tone based words. But for today, let me take you through these 4. So callous. Callous basically, okay, you realize if you engage in a lot of physical manual labor, or you hit your gym very regularly, then the skin right under your fingers on your palm becomes thick. We call them calluses. So if a person is callous, it means that the person is insensitive, indifferent, emotionless, ruthless. So that's callous. So now that you've read the passage, callous, can I say, is a negative word? Okay, let's look at vituperative. Vituperative is when you use very harsh and strong words. So again, can I say that this is a very negative word? Okay, sanguine. What is sanguine? Sanguine basically means cheerful. Sanguine means optimistic. So this is a positive word. And then nostalgic. If you're nostalgic, you are recalling a very pleasant moment of your life from your past. Now, past may something really joyous, happy, ecstatic happened, and now you are mentally reliving that moment, and you are also thinking of, kash us time pe main abhi वापस जा सकता, I wish I could go back to that time. That kind of feeling. That is why at times I think nostalgia overall leaves you in a very pleasant state of mind, but it is a sweet, it's a sweet pain, because it also has that urge to take you back. But overall, I'd still say it is a positive word. So now tell me something. You've read the passage. The author's emotion, attitude towards Indian badminton was positive or negative? Positive, right? So can I eliminate A and B? And between C and D, is there any instance mentioned in the passage where the author is looking back at his own life and is talking about, oh, what a wonderful time that was, I wish I could go back there? No. So D is also eliminated, and that is why the right answer should be option C. So I've told you 4 things in the approach. Let me add this 5th thing that you need to work or develop: tone related vocabulary. I am going to teach you 50 of those high frequency words, and maybe I can then go ahead and give you even more subsequently. But it all depends on whether you find the session useful or not, and you can show that by liking the session. So if you like it and you let me know that these things are useful, I'd probably keep bringing more and more such sessions for you. So that is how we approach tone-based questions. So once again, let's do a quick recap. Tone is the emotions or attitude of the author. How do we figure it out? We figure it out by the author's word choice. And within that word choice, you need to be aware of the fact that a word can have a connotation apart from a denotation. And that connotation can be negative, neutral, or positive. And the moment you know that, you'd be able to get a very accurate sense of the author's emotion. And then when you go to the question, develop tone related vocabulary, you'd be able to arrange them mentally in a series of negative to positive, work with elimination, and arrive at the right answer. Right? So that's about tone based questions, the top tips. And there'll be, as I told you, a follow-up session where we talk about high frequency tones, 50 of them in a single session. And in case you want to know more about each one of the other 19 RC question types. So yes, in various B school exams, if you make a list, there are 20 question types that have been asked in reading comprehension. Tone is one of them. If you want a similar lowdown, if you want a similar detail for the other questions, I'd urge you to join us, where we take care of each one of these things in great detail. And here is a thought for you. And I would take this opportunity to tell you that we are starting with a new batch where, apart from, of course, RC, the remaining 19 question types, additional tricks and techniques, you'd actually get a lot of extra things. So you notice more than 200 hours of live classes. And as a teacher, we keep trying to push it further. Apart from that, you also have 300 plus recorded lectures for you to watch, and it's a holistic course. It has mocks, it has GD interview preparation, everything. And to make it even more attractive for you, you can get up to 90% scholarship by appearing for a scholarship test, which is scheduled for 21st of January at 7 p.m. So make sure that you write it and get the best deal from that. And in case you just want to start your preparation, well, register for Srinivas sir's session that will happen on 24th, where we talk about how to prepare and why it is important for you to start right now. Right? अतुल, मैं समझ नहीं पा रहा, इंग्लिश से करना चाहता हूँ, बेनिफिट्स हैं कुछ, as in, if you could clarify it further. And in case you are preparing for CAT 23 but you want to see where you stand today, we are conducting an all India open mock for this exam called CMAT. अरे नहीं है तैयारी, कोई बात नहीं, रजिस्टर करके टेस्ट देके देखो कि आज कहाँ स्टैंड कर रहे हैं और फिर एक साल में कितना इंप्रूवमेंट लेकर के आना है. राइट? So that's about CMAT. And in case you have some more questions after watching this video, or if you're somebody who's watching a recording, even if you're watching a recording, do press the like button. Let me know that you found this useful. If you have a question later, we are wherever you are. So make sure that you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and join our Telegram group. You can actually drop your questions at any of these platforms and we do our best to get back to you. अच्छा, MA इंग्लिश से करना चाहता हूं यार, वो ना MBA से बहुत डिफरेंट हो जाएगा अतुल, बट येस यू कैन डेफिनेटली गेट इनटू रिसर्च, यू कैन गेट इनटू कॉपी राइटिंग, you can of course get into teaching. So you can also eventually take a shot at hopefully journalism. So there are some distinct career paths that open. So that's it from me today. I had a lovely time working with you. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and I look forward to meeting you really soon in my next session. Until then, if you have any question, any concern, anything whatsoever that you want to know, hit me up and I would love to help you. So I can actually take a quick question or two. Anything yet? Okay, so that's it from me today. Until we meet next, stay safe, stay focused, and really very importantly, stay in touch, keep preparing. We can go ahead and do a lot of things together. Thank you, Atul. Thank you, Harshad. I'm really glad that I could contribute to your journey today. See you.